G'day and welcome back to part 2 of the suspension build on the Mk2 Cooper S subframe. So we're going to start off this episode with applying the bump stop. Now the bump stop is one of the most important parts of the suspension system in any car. So this prevents the shock absorber from bottoming out. If this is completely worn, then the shock is able to travel beyond its full extent and then can punch out in the bottom of the shock absorber housing. So it is important and a very crucial part that you maintain these, and if they start to wear, like on most cars that they do, that you do replace it. If yours doesn't look anything like this and it's completely different and you own a Mini, then chances are you probably need to change it, unless it is a different type. But most of the brand new ones look like this. If it doesn't, consult the owner's manual and go buy the right parts required. So this is going to sit directly in the top here. It'll slide straight in, then we're going to get 2 nuts on the inside and then we're going to tighten it up. Now anyone that's owned a Mini before and has replaced these inside the car, it is a pain in the ass to do. Because there is such little room, because of the suspension cone and the trumpet and the top control arm, having the subframe out of the car is probably the easiest thing to do. You can do it in the car. Look, don't get me wrong, it is possible. It is just a very difficult thing. But with the right tools, like I was saying before, you can get it done. So keep this in mind, that if your suspension components are starting to wear, that maybe it's time to pull it all out, overhaul it, replace the parts, and then reassemble. So as always, once you've done one side, complete the other side before moving on. All right, so now comes the fun part, and by fun I mean it is quite difficult if you've never done this before and if you're by yourself. So we fitted the smaller spacer at the end, so towards the back of the car, with the rubber seal around the outside sitting on the lip. With the front seal, we haven't fitted it to the front of the lip, solely because it will make it a lot easier for us to slide the seal on once it's inside the car. Now the fun part that comes with this is we have to try and line up the ball joint along with the trumpet at the same time. So it can be quite difficult to do this in the car, but because we have this thing almost upside down, it should be a bit easier for us to align. So let's give this a go and see if we can do it first go. Oh my goodness, that never happens. Literally never happens. You'll probably try this in your car and you'll probably say, oh Tomo, you lied to me. It was super difficult. I spent 3 hours doing it. I literally just spent probably 30 seconds fitting that. So we're going to grab the pin along with the thicker washer and the locating lock tab at the top, along with a spring washer and a nut. We're going to slide that from the front of the subframe all the way through. Once it's lined up and everything's still in, so nothing's come out of its home from down here. There is still a bit of movement here, but that's just because we have shortened the trumpet, so we haven't adjusted the suspension height just yet. Once you've done that, grab your spring washer along with your nut on the other side. We're going to tighten those. So we're going to grab a new bolt and we're going to line up this lock tab with one of these bolt holes. We're going to put the bolt in and just do it up once again by hand. Once that's then located, we can then tighten up the 2 nuts, one on either end. Then we can tighten up the smaller bolt here. Now make sure that you don't over tighten these either, because these are roller bearings, that even though it does have a thick washer at the end and then it's got the subframe and then a nut and a spacer and a washer and everything else, you still don't want to be going ham on it. You want to make sure that you tighten these up either to a specification listed in the mini book, or just nip it up and then give it just a little more. Alright, so that's one nut done up. Now onto the front one. We'll just nip that up just a little bit, grab a ratchet, and then we can tighten up the locating bolt as well. Now that we've done one side, we can move on to the other. So the last thing we're going to do in this episode is fit this new pin. It has two different lengths, so the distance between here and here is shorter than the distance between here and here. This pin enables the shock to attach to the upper control arm. So all we're going to do is slide that in there. We're going to get a new washer, put it on one end, and then we're going to get a nut, put it on, and we're just going to tighten that up finger tight. That way when we go to put the shock absorber on down the track, we can tighten up both sides. So we'll leave that one like that, and we'll do the other side. So we just repeat the same process on this side. So the longer side goes in first, followed by the spring washer and the nut. And we'll do the same thing with this. We'll just nip it up, and then we can come back and tighten it down the track. So that's it. That's the suspension done on the front subframe for the Mk2 Cooper S. We've done the tie bar, the lower control arm, the pivot pin and bushers. We've done the upper control arm, a new shock mount pin, along with a new ball joint up on the inside here, along with a new trumpet and a new rubber cone. So that's it, guys. That's the end of episode number 2. On number 3, we're going to get into doing the brakes. So we're going to run both the hard and the flexible brake lines. We're going to pull apart the brake calipers and we're going to rebuild them along with the hubs, new bearings and ball joints. And a little extra treat, I'm going to also show you how to replace a CV boot and to see if there's any wear in the CV joint. Stay COVID safe, guys. Fingers crossed we're out of lockdown soon.